Well guys, today's whole build costs less than the new AMD RX 7600 XT. So surely the GPU in this build can't be faster than the RX 6700, right? Well, apparently that's the magic of the used market. So what we have here today is a 1080p build, which will be able to play at close to 240 FPS if you play on competitive settings. And it's definitely a better buy than new AMD cards or the new RTX 4060, which is kind of bad if you ask me. So what is here today? Well, let's go over the components. Now, the start of the show is the AMD RX Vega 56. Now, I have a full video on the channel discussing this card. And now this thing is a 7-year-old AMD card based on an old architecture, which used to draw a lot of power out of the box and was basically unavailable due to mining. But today they are super cheap. So I bought this one as broken and then fixed it, and I paid 20 bucks for it. Really? Yes, I paid 20 bucks for it. But you can buy one for 70 bucks easily on eBay without any kind of effort. And if you go ahead and flash the BIOS to a Vega 64 to unlock it all, and tune it, overclock it, undervolt it, it will go crazy fast. Again, I recommend you to the full video to check it out, or you can just see the benchmarks of this PC to see it better. But the card alone is definitely not enough, so we have it paired with something that's becoming really cheap, and that is 10th and 11th gen Intel CPUs. So what I have here today is an i7-10700. Now those things, they are literally throwing them at you, and you can buy one for just a shave over 100 bucks. And you just need a good motherboard for it. If you get a Z series motherboard, you will be able to push the CPU a bit better, because yes, even if it's locked, you can kind of overclock it, not really, but make it go faster. So we've got a Z590A Pro from MSI. Now this is a very good deal I got. I basically bought it brand new for 50 bucks because nobody wants these motherboards anymore, really. So if you look properly, you can find them. And the CPU is locked, so we don't need much to cool it. So we have just a ROG Strix used cooler, which you can buy for like pennies, 20 bucks. And we have an NZXT case, which is basically brand new, but it's actually used. And this one as well, you can buy for very cheap, probably like 30 bucks for a case like this, easily. Then we have a very bad choice, which is this Xilinx PSU. Now, Xilinx is a great brand. They make good PSUs. We cover them on the channel. But this is a PSU that they told me is not to be used for gaming. And if you read on the back, it says it has a maximum output of 300 watts. So it is a terrible idea to use it with this GPU because it draws a lot of power and this CPU. But hopefully with my tweaks, we'll be able to make it work. And yeah, I might be using a very weird adapter. So I'm not sure this is actually gonna work, but we will try. Worst case, we spend 20 bucks more and get a better PSU. But then to cover that, we got some extensions from Asia Horse. You can buy like single piece extensions for like $2. So whatever. I used 1 terabyte Gen 3 drive. These are super cheap as well. So again, 20 bucks for 1 terabyte, easy. And we then have some very good looking RAM from a brand you might not have heard of, Kingdian, but these are cheap and they go fast and they look nice. So we'll take a look at them. But you can also just buy, if you're really tight on a budget, like used RAM for like 20 bucks for 16 gigs. And it's gonna be plenty fine. So I say we get building and see if it catches on fire. Okay, now little note. Now, as you can see, we have a sticker here that says basically this M.2 drive is only compatible with 11th gen CPUs, which we do not have. So we have to install our drive in this slot or this slot. Now I'm putting it here because this way it's easier to take off if needed, even after the build is finished, if it makes sense. So be careful if you have a Z590 with a 10th gen CPU. Now here we are mounting the cooler, but these aren't truly compatible with this motherboard, but we are trusting basically Intel keeping their measurements pretty much the same for years to still fit. So let's see. Okay, at this point, let's put everything into the case. Okay, now the actual issue of today's build, which is the power supply. Now we're gonna need this, which is basically a SATA to 6-pin to 8-pin adapter for your GPU. Again, definitely not recommended. Ready for the GPU to go in. Again, for the Vega 64 or 56 I should say review, be sure to check it out on my channel, and so I can also show you how we can make this thing go so quick. Okay, so the build is basically done. Now we are not really gonna cable manage the back because I still don't know if I will be able to make all of this work. Since we have all of these adapters, but I say we just turn it on and see if it works. Now yes, the build is basically finished, but I was nearly forgetting about one important issue. You see this? This is a tiny scratch, that's why we have this. And here we are, much better I'd say. Let's boot it. Okay, so first boot, moment of truth. Let's see if we get a signal. We have the ROG logo backwards, but hopefully we'll be able to fix that later on. And we are in the BIOS. Pretty straightaway boot. That's a good start. Now the issue is probably going to be underload with this kind of PSU. So I say the next step is to install Windows and get started. And here we are with the conclusions, with the build finally built, tested, and the OS installed. Now, I say we get first off into the benchmarks because that's the craziest part about this computer. So first off, I ran the synthetics. So I ran CPU-Z, CPU score, and that was very good, pretty much as expected of the CPU. So around 550 points in single and over 5,000 in multi, which is good. Then I just checked the CPU temperature because we had a single 120mm all-in-one water cooler, but it is actually a ROG with a programmable screen, so it's a good cooler, so we had absolutely no issues there. Even on Prime 95 small FFT, everything was running properly. But at this point, I went on and tested something with the GPU. Now I tried to run Firestrike, but the PC crashed on me. Why? Because the power supply wasn't able to handle all the wattage. So we had to actually go in and do a proper undervolt of the whole system. So CPU undervolt as shown in my tutorials, and full GPU tweak. Now this card again was already flashed to a Vega 64 from the original video, so it did actually draw a bit more power, which probably contributed to making it crash, but after tuning it with a nice voltage curve on the GPU, everything was smooth, and we ran Firestrike, and we nearly set the world record in Firestrike for this configuration actually, coming in at over 20k with close to 25k on the GPU, and a very nice score on the CPU as well. As you can see, they're very evenly matched, and everything is running smoothly. And that was shown in gaming as well, because talking about the gaming benchmarks, we just ran Apex Legends and we were able to get an average of 180 FPS across the benchmark. And even on the most intensive zones, it really did not go under 140. The least I saw was 130, I think, which is very good because it means you can max out a 144Hz monitor with this GPU. However, I will say, in Apex we are actually slightly CPU limited, which is crazy and one probably wouldn't guess, but yes, because in the full video of the mod, we tested Apex Legends with this GPU and a Ryzen 7 5800X3D, and with that CPU we actually did close to 200 average FPS, but anyways. And now in Warzone we were not CPU limited, which opens for, thoughts about how much CPU and GPU balance matters, because it really depends on the game. But here we did an average of 120 FPS, pretty much locked in, only ever outside while running and flickering we saw it go down under 120, and still it was always over 100 FPS. So even here, around 144 Hz gaming is definitely doable. Obviously, if you play Fortnite, you can do over 200 FPS, but that's pretty much obvious, to be honest, so we didn't really cover that. Now, while filming the video, I also discovered something really cool, because this was my first time with King Dian RAM, this RGB RAM in there, and I have to say, it looks very nice. But this RAM doesn't have XMP, but it is 3200 MHz RAM, so you might be wondering, how is that possible? And that's what I wondered, because if you open the BIOS, you just see XMP non-compatible, but the RAM is running at 3200 MHz speed. Why? Because they basically tweaked the RAM to run at a factory 3200 MHz with basically CL22 timings, and So it's really cool, honestly, and it's just running flawlessly. And that allows us to run on 3200 MHz on a locked i7, because this i7-10700 has a maximum supported RAM speed, which is not 3200 MHz actually. So we are running overclocked RAM on a locked CPU, all because this manufacturer did not provide us with an XMP profile, which is super cool in my opinion. So the RAM, 10 out of 10 for me. And the PSU, yes, you should spend a bit more money in there. Definitely do not resort to undervolting as a way of making up for your mistakes when budgeting and choosing hardware, but very impressive from Xilinx that even their lower end unit can run an i7 and a Vega 56 with just a little bit of tweaking. So that's actually very nice, because even at stock, it didn't crash immediately. It crashed after like 2 or 3 minutes. So it means that it was right on the edge, and now we have a very good margin in there. Just goes to show how far you can stretch less than $300 of budget in today's day and age. And it goes to show why you should subscribe to the channel, first of all, and drop a like, please. But definitely don't buy one of these new AMD GPUs like the RX 7600 XT. It has 60 GB of VRAM. This one has 8, but you really don't need 16 for 1080p gaming either way. It's just a marketing gimmick. It's, in my opinion, a pretty bad card to buy. And yeah, even the RTX 4060, which we have covered in a dedicated video, telling that like it's not too bad as an upgrade, definitely. But I think if you have the space, in your case, the power supply to support it, and or the expertise to tweak these older cards, they are definitely best buy. And the same goes for older CPUs, like 10th gen especially, I think is the meta right now. So guys, do let me know down below if you would have changed anything, or if you have any tips for me or stuff to check out next for my next budget build. And do let me know if you like the aesthetic as well. And hopefully I will see you guys in another video. So see you soon. Goodbye.